Astrology Roast. I think it needs to sound like a shitty intro, like a funny shitty intro.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Astrology Roast. My name is Karen.
My name is Itai and we are back. Woo!
Woo! I like that little shout out you've got there, Itai. Why are you feeling so festive and so happy? What's been happening for you?
Wow, nothing festive, nothing happy.
Okay.
But I don't know, maybe it's just talking to you, maybe it's just, being back on the track with Astrology Roast, and maybe it's about deciding not to continue with the stupid 36 questions that's supposed to make you fall in love.
Oh my God, yeah, the 36 questions. It was really interesting to hear people's response to that series, which we have now both made the decision to not complete or continue. Some people came up to me and said, oh my God, wow, that got really dark, which I found really interesting because I thought it was a real lighthearted response to these questions and we were having the best time. But it turns out that my version of what's funny and self-deprecating reflections on my life and my interests, that's actually a dark experience for other people. So I'm sorry, we're not continuing with the questions. Certainly DM us if you want to know our responses. I did do the questions with someone else in my life who shall remain nameless. And look, it is a really powerful tool. So I would recommend that everyone, if you want to use, if you haven't read the book, The Game, because that's really now probably completely unacceptable. But if you want to, whip out some tools to seduce people, I think these questions work. I reckon they work.
I don't know about that, but okay. I want to, how from that experience you're recommending people to do that? That is, I'm surprised, to be honest.
Because I think it gets you, even if you hate the questions, it gives you a framework within which to connect. So even if you do it with someone and you both think, oh my God, these are so intense, it's kind of a shared experience. So I guess it doesn't actually matter what the questions are. Maybe other people can do the attached questionnaire or the BDSM quiz questionnaire or the love languages questionnaire or the 36 questions. I think as long as you're doing an online questionnaire, I mean, is that even a word?
It's true.
I don't remember.
So the recommendation is for an online quiz, not necessarily that specific, project of the 36 questions. And that sentiment I can totally relate to. I also want to say that in the last episode, I said that we definitely have to finish it because my Virgo moon will go crazy if we don't. So I just acknowledge that now turned out to be a lie. But I just, I am an Aries sun and sometimes my Aries sun jumps out and I cannot imagine myself answering one more question from that series. So we have
I don't know where your Virgo moon is. All I can say is it's completely out of the door today because we've been chatting on the phone for a good 30, 40 minutes and not once have you been like, okay, let's record now. You just let me jump from idea to idea. You're happy for the fact that we weren't really sure what we're going to talk about. Like your Virgo moon was just nowhere to be seen today. So I've really taken advantage of that because I've enjoyed having that freedom to just jump around and chat to you with freedom. But I kind of miss the Virgo moon as well because it gets shit done and it gets us moving, it gets us on task. So I hope it comes back soon, but let's see how it goes.
I don't know where it is, honestly. So how was your week? How are things? Venus was retrograding. We had an eclipse, new moon in Cancer. Mercury is retrograding. Like, it's a shit show. How are you holding up?
Yeah, it has been a bit of a shit show. But look, I think we are in a global shit show or a show of shit. So it feels all very appropriate to be entering Cancer season, particularly with this very potent, powerful eclipse that we just witnessed. I've been told by reputable resources on my favorite source, the internet, that this most recent new moon was meant to be very potent, very powerful, so much so that even if you're out there doing your traditional monthly new moon intentions, probably not the best time to be doing intention work, because eclipses can be so powerful and so heavy, or significant rather, that you don't need to put too much energy in addition to what's already happening. You don't need to plant seeds. You don't need to ask for grand things from the universe, because there's already some big stuff that's happening. So it was a big start to this Cancer season. I did have some very interesting things happen to me, many of which I cannot disclose on the podcast. But what I do want to share, which is completely not connected to my week, is the fact that in complete secret, in complete disregard for the Astrology Roast community, Itai has gone off with a Cancerian and started to record his own separate podcast in the Hebrew language. Yes, that is still a language that exists and is spoken. Itai is recording a whole new podcast, and I feel like our listeners deserve a response. I feel like they've been abandoned. You haven't prepared them. They haven't had time to start studying Hebrew or to learn the language. Like, how can we? I can't even understand it. I studied Hebrew for 13 years. I don't know why 13, but 12 years probably. And I still can't understand your podcast, and it's very distressing. Very distressing.
Well, if you paid attention to your own podcast, you would have remembered.
There's that Virgo moon. There's that Virgo moon.
I mentioned working on this Hebrew podcast on this very podcast. Like, I was talking right here a few episodes ago, if not last episode, about that project. Yes, and it's something that is true. I wouldn't use the words abandoned and in secrecy or anything or Cancerian for the other co-hosts.
Very clandestine.
But it is happening. It is going to be like, if for the people that do care, it is going to be more of like a capsule. I never know how to say this word. A capsule podcast. So it's only going to be like 12 episodes, one for each sign. And it's just going to be like a standalone. It's not going to be like a journey and a life experience. And as Astrology Roast, it's not going to have its own Instagram. It's not going to have you. It's just not going to be the same thing. And yes, it's exciting, but it's not as exciting as recording this actual episode that we're recording right now.
But how do we know that you don't say that on your capsule podcast or whatever it's about? How do we know that you don't say in Hebrew, oh, this is my most exciting podcast? I hate my stupid other podcast that's in this stupid language called English. How do we all know that you're not playing both sides of this coin?
I always loved English. I remember my first English lesson when I was 10 years old, and my teacher got into the class and she said, by the end of this year, you will all be able to speak English. And of course, my Virgo moon, I put my hand up and I was like, wait, but what do you mean speak English? Would we actually be able to have a conversation? Would we be? And she was like, no, you wouldn't be able to have a conversation. But if I dropped you in the middle of London, you would be able to find your way back to your parents. And I was like, first of all, that is not...
I don't think... also, would you want to find your way back to your parents if you as a young boy had been dropped out of your shitty town in the middle of London?
I was like, in your scenario where you drop me in the middle of London, all I ask is for you to just turn around and go back to Israel and let me start my new life as a 10-year-old gay boy in London.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first English lesson. I remember it vividly, and I love English. I love this language, and I love this podcast. I think maybe it's important to point out that it is Cancer season and Mercury retrograde, so all of those feelings of betrayal or not understanding a language that you never that you don't know, maybe it has to do more with Mercury retrograde.
Wow.
Rather than with reality. But
Okay. Well, it's my reality and it's my truth. And I'm sure a lot of other people in this particular season that we find ourselves might also be feeling a bit sensitive and a bit in their little shell. Of course. And it's okay. And I do feel a little bit triggered by the whole separate podcast thing. But you're right. That's for me to hold and to sit with in present awareness, as I'm trying to do. So I'm going to do that.
Gemini. To me, the transition between Gemini season to Cancer season is like the transition from, Sunday to Monday, or, the summer vacation to the first day of school. It's like...
It's so wrong. It's so wrong, isn't it? Like, for anyone that I know that's born in the first few days of Cancer season, and they're just so Cancerian and they are so represent all of the qualities of that star sign, and it just blows my mind, because had they been born a couple of days earlier, they would just have been completely different. It's such a jarring transition. So I think the fact that from the very beginning of Cancer season we have this huge potent new moon, eclipse, winter solstice, summer solstice if you're on the northern hemisphere, I think it's a lot of subtle emotional heaviness and chaos. And I think because we're already sitting with a level of chaos and grief and uncertainty and change, but also kind of monotony and boredom depending on where you are. So we're already in this kind of really, this huge ocean, using the Cancerian terminology. And then we get whacked on the head by this crab-like watery season. So, which asks us as a collective to talk, to feel into the mother or your family of origin or the feminine archetype or the feeling state, all these spaces which we're just all probably so over feeling at the moment, or even thinking about feeling these things. So take it easy, everyone.
I get it. Like, I understand that Cancer season and Mercury retrograde, they ask us to revisit our relationships or to revisit the concept of family or communication or whatever. I was like, why do you have to ask that in like the form of, someone stealing the seat of my bike and then I'm riding my bike to work without a seat, and then I get to work and I realize I forgot my keys? Like, why does it have to be that way of asking? Like, can't just Cancer season and Mercury retrograde ask me politely, like leave a voice, like a post-it note and be like, hey, revisit. Like, I don't need this. Like, the first day of Mercury retrograde, I get down from my apartment and I unlock my bike and I take it outside to the road and I start riding and I sit down and there's no chair and there's no seat because someone stole it in the middle of the night. I'm like, okay, I'm already late. Riding my bike, standing up to my work, get to my work. There's someone, I had to interview someone for a job, and it's 5 minutes to the interview and I forgot my keys and no one's there, and it's me and the person that I'm supposed to interview, and we're both locked outside my
God.
work. And I'm like, is it professional to tell that guy that it's Mercury retrograde and then ask him for his sign and his time of birth and be like, we can skip the interview, I can just see your chart and decide if I want to hire you or not?
Oh my God, this sounds like a rom-com. This sounds like a romantic situation.
Yeah, it wasn't romantic.
I don't know, I just feel extra romantic at the moment because it's Cancer season, and I've made it clear that I have, very, very mixed feelings towards that sign, both drawn to and pushed against. But wait, so what happened to your bike? Wait, your bike seat was stolen and then you were running late to this interview. Have you gotten a new bike seat yet, or that's all too much?
Well, so of course, like an hour later, I was post-interview in a bike shop, comparing seats, asking the person, like, what's the best seat you have? What's the most comfortable seat? He was like, I have this, it's a simple one, it's like $30. I was like, I don't want the simple one. Like, what other things do you have? Do you have any leopard print seats? Do you have any pink seats? He was like, no, but I have this. Anyway, I got a very comfortable seat in honor of cancer season, and my precious little ass. And and so now I had like an hour later, I had a new seat. Let's be honest, like I got excited about the fact that I'm going to buy something new.
Oh my God, it's so exciting. It's so exciting buying things.
Yeah, it was really nice. So you're feeling romantic this cancer season? Like, are you working on any romantic, options? Is it something that you're like trying to?
Listen, a girl's got to keep things to herself. I can't share everything all the time.
It's true.
But yes, I'm feeling nostalgic and romantic, as I always do feel. It feels like there's lots of feels. And I think the fact that we've got Mercury retrograde happening in this Cancer space that we find ourselves in. I mean, Mercury, I see it as this kind of little fly, like a buzzing mosquito that flies around and zips around. It's the quickest planet. So it's actually probably, I might fact check that after this podcast, but it's super quick. It zips around. It's speedy. It's the messenger. And it kind of doesn't quite do its normal work when it's in Cancer. So all those messages that are usually blocked or confused or backwards, they are going to manifest in our feeling space. So you can imagine that we're already in a very feeling space, and collectively we are in an enormous time of change and grief. And, if you're even 1% of a sensitive person, you will be feeling this a lot. If you're 1% of a political person, you'll be feeling this. So the fact that then we have this annoying little planet zipping around and going all around and stealing our bike seats, it's frustrating, it's irritating, but it might just lead you to somewhere new. So maybe this has led you, Itai, to the bike seat that your precious ass, for want of a better word, has always deserved and longed for. Maybe this Mercury retrograde in Cancer will lead people to messages, ideas, new ways of thinking that they might need to get through all this crap to get to. And we finished Venus retrograde. Let's not forget. So we've finished one of the retrogrades. So we're halfway
Weren't
there.
you exposed to a really, really interesting concept of like how to deflect people from asking you about your relationship?
Yes. No, you're right. Well, actually, interestingly, in Victoria, Melbourne, where I live, so just the very, very night or the very day when Cancer season hit and we were thrust out of the depths of Gemini season, which, I mean, as a Gemini, I was absolutely exhausted. I got Gemini'd by all the Gemini people that I know, and I realised that we are very exhausting. So I'm sorry, everyone. It was a hard time. But just as we got into Cancer season, they changed the restrictions in Australia or in Victoria. So you could have had 20 people in your house, and then as soon as it happened, we got into Cancer season. Now you can only have 5 people. So all the Cancerians that were freaking out about having to have these 20-person plus socially distanced parties for their birthday are now breathing a collective sigh of relief because they can just be by themselves if that's what they want. But yes, I was out, socially distanced out with a wonderful Leo and a wonderful Pisces that I know. And no, this is not Lauren the Leo. I do have other Leo friends, although I would never disclose that to her because you really can only have one Leo in your life at a time. But she actually went to New South Wales, so I went out with another Leo and a Pisces, and we were just chatting about, when your grandmother asks you about your relationships and you don't know what to say, or when people ask you these inquisitive, invasive questions about, your love life or how things are going. And I think it was the Pisces who said that she used to say to her grandmother when her grandma would ask her, are you seeing any nice boys? And she's actually interested in girls. So she would say, I'm just focusing on my career right now. And she would just say that every year. And I realized that's just such a fantastic one-line response to anything that's at all uncomfortable or invasive or triggering. Just say, I'm focusing on my career right now. So I've been using it a lot, and I would like to offer this to anyone out there. So if anyone asks you something and you don't want to answer, because it is cancer season and it's sensitive and we are all feeling our feels in a very special way, just say, look, I'm focusing on my career right now. It doesn't matter if you have a job or if you don't have a job. It doesn't matter if you're a career-orientated person. Just say, I'm focusing on my career right now, and that's really taking a lot of my energy. How are you? It's very powerful.
I know. I love it. I'm going to use it. I always said, I said it once, I said it twice, and on this podcast, and I will say it again, that it's super fucking annoying how people feel comfortable to approach you and ask you like, oh, aren't you like tired of being single? Like, don't you want to meet someone? But you are not allowed to tell them, aren't you tired to like compromise for your shitty relationship? And don't you want to meet someone? Like, no, but it's like you have a permission in society to approach a single person and ask them if they're happy to be single or not, assuming they're not. But you don't have a permission to go to someone that's in a relationship. And I'm not talking about like a close friend that you can ask, are you happy in your relationship? Like, literally someone that just met you can ask you if you're happy to be single. Like, that's a regular question. It's not something you have to have a level of, intimacy with. Like, I have people that know me for 10 minutes asking me this question. But like, you could see a couple that, and like 10 seconds later, they hate each other's guts. But you're not allowed to ask them why they're together. And I think that is just not okay. And I think
I just clarify, do you think that in an ideal utopian world, everyone would be able to ask everyone about their relationship? So, for example, you'd be able to go up to the miserable couple who's having a pizza whilst looking at their phones and not staring at each other and just so sick and tired of what the other person's going to say? Or would you just rather that no one asked those questions?
I think everyone should just focus on their careers a bit more, like a bit better.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But no, to be honest, I feel like I just would want it to be more balanced. Like, if when I was in a super like shitty relationship that didn't make me feel good, none of my friends were like, why don't you just, are you happy in this relationship? Why don't you just find someone that treats you better? And then
I think that's the privilege of being in the norm, is that you get to be invisible. So you get the luxury of privacy and the luxury of having autonomy over your story and your narrative. So people don't ask you questions. Whereas if you exist outside any of the norms, you are in the public sphere all the time, and people feel they have the right to ask you those questions. It's really interesting.
And I spoke to one of our friends, our Leo friend, Lauren, which our listeners know by now. And we were talking about, body image and how people feel comfortable commenting on your body when you're fat or when you're big. And because like they're concerned about your health. And we both mentioned like times that we were both skinny and unhealthy, like not eating enough, not eating at all, eating, just certain things, not eating out with friends, and no one would be like, we're concerned for you because, we were doing something that was allegedly good for us, like losing weight. And I think it's again, like people assume that the good thing is to be partnered up or the good thing is to be skinny. If you are doing those things, like no one should be worried about you. But then if you're single, if you're fat, if you're whatever, then people are like, oh, I'm asking this because I'm concerned for you. I'm concerned for your health or for your mental well-being, for being like single, whatever. And then they would
It's like that sigh of relief that your students felt when they finally passed the marriage equality vote in Australia. So they were so over the moon for you because finally you could participate in, the heteronormative relationship that you've always wanted. So that's very, very exciting for you that you can finally
My
get
Pisces
married.
student. Yeah.
They feel it all. I mean, the Pisces are probably
student.
feeling it a lot too. I would argue that maybe the only exception to people not asking those sticky, inappropriate questions would be once you become a grandmother. Only a grandmother,
Ooh.
maybe not a grandfather. I think once you become a grandmother or you are the equivalent age of being a grandmother, potentially, I think then you have the right to ask everybody why they are single, why they're not eating what you think they should be eating, and why are they focusing too much on their career. I think you earn the right to ask whatever the hell you want. That's my only exception. But otherwise, everyone can just pipe down a bit because it's a lot. It really is a lot.
Yeah, especially during Mercury retrograde. And like, you know, some signs, they might like it when they get asked about relationships and, you know, they would love to talk about it. Maybe just be more sensitive to the person's sign and to the person ascendant, maybe. I also learned something new. This, as you know, as you said, like you learned something new during this retrograde. I also learned something new, which is I heard about someone that she broke up with her boyfriend and she did the smartest thing I think that a person can do. She basically, you know how when you break up with someone, you still, like, you're still trying to impress them because, like, you want to win the breakup. So, like,
I hope everyone I've ever broken up with is listening to this right now. I really do.
Yeah.
I hope.
So, like, the classic...
This is me on my best behavior.
Like, the classic is, like, you know, the weekend right after the breakup, you, like, post on your Instagram, like, you partying out with your friends, like, you with 3 dicks in your mouth. Like, you know, you just want to be like, I'm living my best life. Since you've been gone, I can breathe for the first time, as Kelly Clarkson says. Even with 3 dicks in my mouth, I can still breathe for the first time. And then what this girl did, she broke up with her boyfriend. Now, you know how people have their close friends list on their Instagram?
I sure do.
Yeah. So she basically took everyone out of her close friends list and she just left her ex-boyfriend there. And she created this medium where she can just broadcast whatever the fuck she wanted without, because, you know, on one hand you want to show off your life, but on the other hand you still have all of the other followers and you don't want to be crazy like posting like, because people would be like, oh my god, like she's just trying to impress her ex, like clearly she's not that happy.
Who did this? Who is this person?
I don't know her. I heard about her. Like I don't know if she's real. I don't know if she's a myth. Apparently, to think after I was talking to people about it, apparently other people have done this as well. Like, but it's just amazing. And I was wondering also which star sign would do that. Like, which star sign would broadcast, you know, to a person.
It's so calculated. Like, it's so calculated that I think it must be a Virgo or a Capricorn. Because like Capricorn, that's a long game. That's the long game.
It's true, but a Capricorn also is like, I feel like Capricorn would be like, why would I need to fake like the best life? I'm already living the best life. Me. And yeah, I feel like a Virgo or a Scorpio.
Wait,
like a Scorpio.
So hang on a second. I am on your close friends Instagram list. So does this mean that you have created the same situation because you're posting heaps of stuff about your new podcast, but you don't want me to see? And so you've put me on the close friends list so that I still see you posting things that aren't about your new podcast, your new Hebrew language podcast. So I still feel like I'm close to you. Is this what's happening?
Well, I don't know. Is it?
Wow.
Listen, I know I have a Virgo moon, but I'm still Aries sun, Aquarius ascending. Like, I wouldn't put too much effort into doing that. Also, I think, you know, Aries people won't feel comfortable creating a fake life for someone. It's like,
it's true. They just want to broadcast
why would I want to hide
everything.
it?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, like if I can post it for everyone to see, why would I post it for one person to see? Yes, so I think that's something to learn from about, be suspicious. Every time you're on someone's close friend list, like, just ask yourself, like, am I the only person seeing this content right now? And why?
Wow. That's so paranoid. I love it. I absolutely love it. So you might not be, as close as you think you were, or you might be someone's ex. That's really cool. That's bizarre. I still think earth sign, that person's an earth sign. Maybe not a Capricorn, you're right, but maybe Virgo. It's very calculated. It's very organized.
It's
maybe
true.
I was going to say Taurus, but no, not a Taurus.
Wait, why not Scorpio? I feel like you would be the first one to say it's Scorpio.
Listen, I don't know, because I haven't had much to do with Scorpios lately. So I feel like I've lost touch. Like, I've started to put the same love, hate, push, pull energy into my feelings towards the other water signs, the Pisces, the Cancerians. Like, I haven't, I've lost touch with the Scorpios in that sense. So that's why they don't come to mind. So this is my little subtle way of inviting the universe, not by setting an intention, because we know that this eclipse was, a solar eclipse, solstice, we're not meant to do intentions, but just inviting, the Scorpios, come at me, remind me what it is that makes me so terrified and so drawn to you all, and makes me have to recluse into my room for months on end to avoid you all. So come hit me up, HMU, as the kids say. But yeah, you're right. I guess a Scorpio could do that.
Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. And I want to correct myself. I don't know if it's a Scorpio thing, because I don't think a Scorpio would feel comfortable making someone think that they're close to them. Like, the close friends list. Like, it's like a stamp. It's like a stamp of, like, you're close to me. Like, I don't know if they would feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, good point.
But in the spirit of Mercury retrograde, I also want to do a public announcement to everyone about future miscommunications. Turns out the emojis are different. If I'm sending an emoji from my Apple phone, which is called iPhone, if I send an emoji from my iPhone of, like, let's say the gun, I'm sending, like, the green, like, water gun to your Android phone, what you're actually going to see is a different version of that gun. And that
it's horrible.
And it goes to, like, many, many emojis. And it's just crazy. Like, how when you're young, or, like, even still to this day, when there's nothing to talk about at parties, like, there's always this, like, one Aquarius that goes, what if the color red that you're seeing is different to the color red that I'm seeing? And, like, what if we just both call it red, but it is actually, like, you see green when you say red? And so, like, that is, like, that's an hypothesis. Like, what's the word?
Yes. Oh my God.
That's like, but the emoji thing is real. Like, that is for real. Like, when I'm sending you an emoji from my iPhone, you see something different. That's not even like a conspiracy.
I don't even know what to say, because I don't understand who you're telling this to, because obviously no one that listens to this podcast doesn't have an iPhone except for me. Like, the only person you could be directing this to is me. And I mean, the topics that we've covered during this podcast have already been very triggering, as I've already made myself emotionally vulnerable enough to say. And now you're telling me about how I know the emojis don't work properly on the Android. And this is just one of the many things that don't work properly on the Android that I'm reminded of every single day. And then when I try and talk to my Android assistant, Bixby, it's not nearly as helpful as Siri. It doesn't answer me. Bixby. Bixby. Bixby.
That's like, wow.
Yeah. Bixby. Yep, it's a thing. Look, I don't know if anyone else doesn't, have an iPhone. I don't know who you're telling this to, but yes, I've noticed that I have a couple of my favorite emojis, which are the, person like hitting her head or doing the shrugging shoulders thing, and it almost comes out as a sketch, like a full proper graphic, whereas
it's terrifying.
It's terrifying, whereas the iPhone one is more fun and lighthearted. Like, literally, this phone is changing how I communicate. Anyway, don't get me started, but wow, no, it's not a conspiracy. It's true. I don't know why you're bringing it up, but thank you for that public service announcement. It is very retrograde.
Under the topic of miscommunications.
Yeah, well, you made it very loud and clear, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm still with my Android, if anyone had been wondering, and it's a really good phone. They really you can drop them, you can smash them, you can throw them at walls, you can try and break them in half, and they still stay pretty good. So they're really quite durable.
I'm just waiting for the day that maybe this retrograde, you know, a car will run it over and you'll just have to get a new phone and get an iPhone and to go back to the real life. For any of our listeners that have an Android, like, you know, I think from being in this world and growing up through some tough times, I can tell you that it gets better and like you can get an iPhone at some point. It's not easy.
It's not easy. But I think what we also wanted to do for this episode, because we knew that we were coming into this episode with a lot of disparate feelings and ideas, but maybe not knowing how we could connect all of those very powerful emotions that we have. I mean, I speak for myself. Itai, I don't know if you're feeling powerful emotions or maybe you're not feeling anything at all. I don't know. Only you know. But I think I wanted to pull a card, maybe two cards. Let's be selfish. Maybe one card, depending on the feeling. But my beautiful, beautiful favorite deck that was gifted to me by another beautiful person. Surprise, surprise, Itai, it's you. You gave me this beautiful deck. It's called the Many Queens Tarot. We spoke about it on an earlier episode with Ali Garrett and Kitty, who's an amazing tarot reader, and she brought our attention to this incredible creative deck. So I would like to indulge myself, and because we are with this eclipse season and we're not done yet, we're going to have more eclipses. We're going to have another new moon in Cancer. So Cancerians, we've talked a lot about you this season, this episode, but you're going to get 2 juicy new moons this month, or this season rather.
Can you maybe
enjoy it.
Explain about the deck, like why it's so special?
Why is it so special? Because it's very, I don't know how to put it into words that don't sound silly, but it's, firstly, the illustrations are stunning and beautiful. The representation of gender and of different bodies and different reflections of people are also really, really gorgeous and really special. And also the actual description of each card is very affirming and very quick and witty and smart, and they just get it. So if you're looking for a really beautiful tarot deck, and you know you may be not wanting just the traditional Rider-Waite's deck, I'd really recommend Many Queens Tarot. You can find the illustrator online on Instagram, and you'll get a sense of why I love this deck so much. And I've used it a lot with a lot of people, and I just find it such a pleasure to interpret. I feel like she's really captured the essence of the tarot really well in a really creative, modern, connected way. So, look, I don't know. It's hard to talk about something that's a visual thing. Go check it out, and then you'll get it. But I'm going to pull a card. I don't know if it's for me or for you or for anyone that might be listening to this show in this very, very moment.
Let's just do it for everyone.
Okay, okay, well, for everyone.
Even
you're right.
If they're not listening.
You're right. And I did just read to you earlier today your horoscope, which was all about how you can just keep giving love to everyone. There's no limit to how much love you can give. I could kind of hear you vomiting in your mouth as I told you that, but I kept reading it anyway because, you know, we all need a little bit more love, but it was a lot.
We do.
So because there's no limit, sure, let's give it to everyone. Even, I might say, the people that listen to your Israeli Hebrew language podcast. Sure, them too. Okay, so give it a little whack. I'll give the tarot deck a whack, just to kind of cleanse the deck and connect with it. And let's just pull. I'm going to pull one card, and then I'm actually going to pull 2 cards because I think we're going to need 2 because we need a bit of clarity. And now we're going to flip them over.
Too after you finish.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, which deck will you use?
Deck.
Oh, a different deck. Okay. Oh, okay. They're both upside down, so that's not good. No, it's not.
Which
it's
cards?
not good. Okay. So they're both upside down. They're both reversed. So if anyone out there is interested in tarot, not just the card, but actually the direction of the card can hold significance. But I am just pretending to be a tarot reader because Itai is much better at this than I am, if I am to be honest. But we got as a collective, and we're all connected. So this is the animals, the plants, the air that we breathe, and us sitting listening to this now. We got as a collective the Queen of Pentacles, some more earth, reversed, and oh no, it's in Roman numerals. I can't read it. It's either the 10 of wands or the 5 of wands. I think it's the 5 of wands.
Count the objects.
Count the objects. I think it's the 5. It's the V. Is the V a 5 or a 10?
Yes, I think it is.
Okay. All right. So the V is okay. Well, that was reversed as well. So
yeah,
it wasn't
the X is a 10. The X is a 10 because iPhone X is iPhone 10.
Wow. This is with friends like this. Who needs enemies, as they say? So I'm going to read what the Queen of Pentacles represents. Now, usually when I'm doing a reading and I'm pretending to be an expert not astrology, and when I'm pretending to be an expert tarot reader, basically I just try and remember what element each thing is. So Pentacles, I'm just like ding, 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 Earth. So Queen of Earth, very earthy vibes, but we got the Queen of Earth reversed. So it says, you may be feeling ungrounded or your intuition is off. Turn to the earth to reconnect. Enjoy simple physical pleasures. So, I mean, I feel like that's super spot on because I'm feeling completely in the air. And I definitely don't feel very intuitive. But I don't know if that resonated with anyone. So basically, get to the earth, connect to it, and don't get stressed if you're feeling a little off. That's okay, because we are all okay. Now, 5 of wands, or is it 10 of wands? I mean, we're still not sure. The jury is out. But because it's 5. Okay, 5 of wands, reversed, because it was upside down in a big, big, significant way. So 5 of wands, have you been spending all your time untangling other people's messes? Wow, that's really hitting home. Go home and rest. Wow. So if ever you wanted a better, clearer lesson or message to tell everyone to still stay at home. We are not out of this pandemic. Stay home, rest, and stop trying to fix everyone's shit. Yes. And look, that's not to say, I mean, I think people are out there doing incredibly important work. So I'm not telling people to stop doing the work that they do that's essential or protesting or doing all of that. Definitely not. But I think it might just mean come home to yourself. So you might just need to, again, check in with your heart, check in with the earth, put your hands on the ground if you need to actually remind yourself that you are a creature that, you know, like plants, has roots and needs water and air and rest and light. Do what you need to do, but just chill out. So that's a lot of earth and wandy energy, so fire energy. So Itai, what did you get? Because you're a much better tarot reader than I am. I'm curious.
Disagree. I disagree that I'm much better.
Oh, you say that on all the podcasts.
Better and worse. I know it's like super like hippie of me, but I think that's like it's all about, you know, wherever your mind takes you and your intuition takes you, there's not better or worse. Like I really connected to what you just said. I'm going to pick a card from also a deck that Kitty, Big Reveal Tarot on Instagram, exposed us to, and that is the Melanated Classic Tarot inspired by Raider White. Like basically it's the same deck as like the classic tarot, but all of it is people of color, and it says on the box, representation matters, especially with archetypes of magic and power, which is also a conversation that is now obviously with all the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that becomes, people are unfortunately having more awareness. I'm saying unfortunately because it was always a part of the conversation, but only now it's like out there. I feel like, people have talked about these things for so many years. Even this deck is like a few years old, which shows that, people have been saying this for a long time, but only now it's like out in the air and like, more in the mainstream. But basically, Ubria Tronshaw, she came up with this idea, and she collaborated with an artist that, together they created this deck. It's super it's just amazing. It's just the classic deck, but then you realize how white the classic deck is. And it's fun to just look and see people that look like you or like other people that you've never seen on cards, and I like it. So also I think we should take pictures of the cards that we pulled and put them on our Instagram, and then people can see. And I'll put links to the places where you can get those decks. So I'm gonna pull out. Is that?
Whip it out.
That's from sex, yeah. Okay, so the Hanged Man, which I think is also super appropriate.
Wait, upside down or upright?
It is upside down. Of course, it's upside down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the Hanged Man is one of my favorite cards because it's all about finding comfort in being uncomfortable. And then it allows you to see things differently. So of course, none of us want to be hanged upside down. Like, it's uncomfortable. We want to be upright and tall. But the Hanged Man is super calm, even though he's like hung up upside down. But only when he gets calm in that state, he can see the world in a totally new outlook, in a totally different outlook. So I think connecting it to what you said and connecting it to the retrograde and to Cancer season, it's all about, I think, giving in to, to where we are and just allowing the uncomfortableness of the retrogrades and the season, allowing it to give us this new perspective that it's offering.
Here.
Yes. So I think that I'm taking those cards with me to the next week, maybe to the next season even. And I think it's also, it's been fun to just go back to our regular episodes and quit the stupid questions. From now on, if we're going to experiment any concept, it's going to be, I think, limited to one episode or even like...
I don't know. I think I'm still happy to finish the questions with you. Like, we could do a B-side or maybe... I don't know. I'm not done yet. I want to know what happens. I'm not finished.
There's also the part where you're supposed to stare at each other's eyes for
Oh, fuck that. No, fuck that. No. Shut it down. Okay, no, I'm with you on that one.
Taking it back.
I'm with you on that one.
Any final notes before we wrap it up?
Listen, I think we've said it all, really. So no final notes, but just an encouragement to anyone else. If you have a deck that you love, maybe you'd like to pull a card and share that and tag us in it, because I'd love to see what other people are pulling from their tarot decks, what messages are emerging. And, as I said earlier, just take it easy. I don't think there's too much energy and effort that anyone out there needs to be exerting right at this very moment. The request right now is for us to sit with our heart and just be a bit gentle and look inside, to our immediate surroundings. So just that's my only little message. What about you? What about you, Ethan?
I totally relate. I approve the message.
You approve.
And I want to thank you Karen, and I want to thank everyone
Me?
that listened to this episode.
Oh, just a little.
for,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
just for showing up like we always try to do. And thank you everyone that joined us to another episode of Astrology Roast, and we see you next time on another episode of Astrology Roast.
I like that ending. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Oh my God.